Progressive Planet is a profitable provider and developer of critical low carbon and carbon sequestering solutions for the cement, industrial, agriculture, and livestock industries. We've got CEO Stephen Harpur here with us today to provide an update and a deep dive into the company's business and its moonshot initiatives with the low carbon and carbon sequestering construction and cement industries. I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. Please remember, this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Steve, welcome. Good to have you back.
Thank you. I like that word moonshot.
All right.
First time I've heard that, but can I steal your line?
Oh, feel free. Feel free. All right. You have your presentation deck here to support the news release from a couple days ago. Why don't you start off with your presentation to sort of set the foundation here for our discussion?
Thank you, Martin. I committed to the last time we spoke that we would talk a lot more about PozGlass. So this is our deep dive. Exciting times for us. We poured our first concrete foundations yesterday for our new bag houses, which handle all of the air emissions. And I've got pictures of same. We've got excavators on site. We're digging holes. We're putting in footings. We're pouring concrete and very excited. We're going to have our first pour of PozGlass infused ready-mix concrete in the week of November 17th. So before I get ahead of myself, I'll just stick to the script here, but thank you. Webinar does contain some forward-looking statements. We've got some new products that we are launching, and we're going to talk more about those. So I will be making some forward-looking statements in this presentation. First thing I want to talk about with PozGlass, the whole reason for PozGlass, ground glass pozzolan has been an approved substitute for Portland cement in Canada and the US and Europe since November of 2020. But what is the big deal and concern? And the big deal and concern is, how does glass pozzolan help mitigate something called alkali silica reactivity, or ASR, or concrete cancer? And if you look at the image on the right, everybody has seen concrete like this, where it cracks and spalls. And one of the biggest concerns about using ground glass pozzolan in concrete is its potential to actually reduce ASR. And the reason for that is there is a lot of alkali in glass. It is naturally an alkali powder. And so we have to ensure that its alkalinity doesn't further contribute to the problem of concrete cancer or ASR. So we did a side-by-side test of PozGlass with our wet ground glass, or PozGlass, and all of our novelty surrounding PozGlass in our patent claims surrounds the wet grinding of the glass versus traditional ground glass pozzolan, which is simply dry ground. So we commenced testing, and we actually used Lafarge's lab in Seattle, now Amrise, and we tested. There is a quick 16-day test where you subject a mortar bar to very, very harsh alkali conditions with the idea to learn in very short order how this material performs over time. And what you do not want to see is expansion of this cement or the cement mortar bar. And the more it expands, the more there is presence of ASR in the mix that you're testing. So the test setup that we did, we replaced 30% and 40% of Portland cement in these mortar bars with both PozGlass and with traditional ground glass pozzolan that was dry ground. Everything else, the particle size was exactly the same. The only variation was that we tested PozGlass versus traditional ground glass pozzolan. If the mortar bar expands more than 0.1 of 1% in 16 days, the test is considered a failure. And so, as I just mentioned, we did side-by-side comparison under identical conditions. Pardon me. So the test name, Rapid Accelerated 16-Day ASR Test, and a test fail. Now, if you look at the first chart here, you'll see in figure 1, we replaced 30% of the Portland with both PozGlass, and we call the PozGlass PG6 and PG10, and dry ground glass pozzolan. We call that dry 6 and dry 10. The 6 and the 10 represents the average particle size. So the average particle size, 50% of the particles with the PG6 are 6 microns or less. And on the PG10, 50% of the particles are 10 microns or less. Same thing with the dry. And then in figure 2, we've done the exact same test, except we replaced 40% of the cement with the two forms of glass, the PozGlass and the dry glass. Now, if you look on figure 1, with the 30% substitution, you saw a 0.02% expansion on both the 6 and the 10 micron size. The 6 micron of the dry failed the test, and the 10 micron passed, but substantially inferior results to the PozGlass. Now, if you move over to the second figure, all of the materials passed. But what's very interesting is to see that there's still a 500% difference. So in the case of the PG6 and the 10, the mortar bar only expanded 0.01, while with the 6 and the 10 of the dry, in each case, it was 0.04. Now, these are all tests that passed, but you'll see 500% less expansion. So 500% less expansion with 30% with the dry ground glass failing at 6 micron and at 10 micron passing. Now, one of the things that I would like to point out here, if you want to infer, is that as we increased the amount of PozGlass, we actually got less ASR, meaning in the figure 2, there was more PozGlass and less cement. So the inference here is that PozGlass actually works better than Portland cement in mitigating ASR. This is a very strong concept. So we are delighted to show these results, and I hope with this explanation that it may be a little more clear to people. But all cement particles do not dissolve. They're only surface active. What we do is remove the sodium from the surface of the PozGlass particle so that it's not part of this reaction. And this is very clear evidence of the efficacy of what we're doing with the wet grind. So summary key takeaways: 30% PozGlass passed, conventional failed, 40% both passed, but 500% less expansion with the PozGlass. And we have commenced with that same Amrise Seattle lab 2-year ASR tests with both these size fractions of wet and dry ground glass pozzolan. So the PozGlass at 6% and 6 micron and 10 micron, and the dry ground glass pozzolan at 6 micron and 10. We've commenced the 2-year study. We've done the rapid study, and now we've commenced the 2-year. We're about a month into that study. So now I want to move on to funding and milestones. To me, it's great to talk about the pilot plant, but I want our investors and potential investors to understand why it is, what is the real big deal about glass and in particular PozGlass. And it is this ability to mitigate this very common problem of ASR that is the very big deal about PozGlass. The other thing that's PozGlass versus natural pozzolans that are mined is it has much better water demand. It does not soak up excess water. So that's another character trait that we did not cover in our news release, but it is a character trait a beneficial attribute of PozGlass versus other natural pozzolans. Moving on to the PozGlass pilot plant. So we were awarded money. We were officially notified, but we're not allowed to talk about it, on November 17th of 2024. That is the date that the project started, with the end date being October 31st. So we had slightly less than a full year, but we actually didn't get the first big chunk of money until January 31st. So we did not order a lot of equipment until we actually saw the money in our bank on January 31st. And it showed up on the very last day of Q3. So we reported it in our Q3 quarterly financials. So milestone 1, front-end processing, which is contaminant removal and dry grinding. So right now, Progressive Planet, and for over 15 years, we've been selling a product made from post-consumer glass, a sandblast, a crystalline silica-free sandblasting media called CanBlast. We've been having it made in BC by the only other company that is permitted to accept post-consumer waste from Recycle BC. And that company is EnviroGrit Abrasives. They operate out of Quesnel and out of the Abbotsford area. But for PozGlass, we will be producing both PozGlass as well as now producing our own CanBlast. So instead of having that made by a third party, which we've had for over 15 years, we will start making it ourselves. When we had the forecast milestone of October 31st, with reporting by November 30th, we didn't have a full year. In essence, we had from February, when we actually had the money in our bank. And we are about 4 months late, which we expect to report on milestone 1 on or before March 30th, 2026. So moving to more details. With the pilot plant, you can't have it function until every single piece of equipment is in line. So we have a very detailed drawings that show equipment piece number 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. And if any piece is late to show up, you cannot run. So we have most of the equipment already on site that's been ordered, but the last major piece of equipment will not show up until January 2026. And that is an optical sorter. So we will not be able to run the line until the optical sorter is installed. And that for that reason, milestone 1, we are delayed beyond the original projected end date. And of course, our delay is about 4 months. The other thing that's been holding us up is building permits. The municipal process has been tedious and taken much longer than anticipated. What we were able to do is procure permits to do all of our civil work and our foundations. And if you see the pictures on the left, we've pre-built all the forms and all of the rebar ties for all of the columns. And what you're seeing there is the 2. If you look in the picture on the left, you'll see 2 pads. Those are about 3 feet deep and very thick. And we poured yesterday the pads. What will sit on those are what are called bag houses, which clean all of the particulate matter from the air handling inside the building. And all major industrial grinding operations where they're in urban centers require bag houses, and we have an air permit. It's regulated by the Ministry of Environment of the Government of BC. And we operate bag houses, and we've been doing that since 1989. These are new bag houses and so this pour happened yesterday. All the remaining concrete foundation pours, which we do have permits for, including a floor slab, will be completed by Friday, November 14th. We still need the building permit to build on the concrete foundations and slab. We're expecting that imminently. And of course, we've got some breathing room, because you can't build with your building permit until you've got your concrete poured and cured. So we expect to complete that by November 14th, and we expect to actually start erecting this building addition in December. So we purchased all of the steel beams, the posts. We've completed all of the fabrication to connect these together with our metal fabricators and our millwrights in-house. All the footing, rebar, and forms have been pre-built for the additional footings that will be poured by November 14th. And we anticipate construction of the building addition to commence in December 2025. This building addition will house a small portion of the front end receiving, where we receive the glass, the whole bottles, and where we size reduce those down into glass cutlet. We remove the metal, all the metal lids and so on. This all happens in this building. It's not a finished office building. It's a very simple structure, and we anticipate construction of the building to commence in December 2025. I'm not sure if I've posted before, but if anyone drives past the front of our building, they can see all of the steel beams sitting there in front of the building, ready to be erected. So talking about milestone 2, the deadline for completion is October 31st, 2026, next year. So just over 12 months from today, and reporting by November 30th. Much of the work to complete milestone 2 is being completed in conjunction with milestone 1, and no delays are expected. So milestone 2 is focusing on the wet grinding. So what we did while we're developing the full scale pilot plant milestone 2 of wet grinding, concurrent to that, we acquired a commercial wet grinding mill. And it's actually got about 8 times the capacity of the custom pilot plant mill, made by the same manufacturer, but much bigger. We purchased a series of pieces of equipment to set up a batch processing line to produce enough PozGlass to use in the first commercial deployment with our pilot plant partner. And I don't use their name in presentations unless they've reviewed. So in this case, I didn't ask them to review this presentation, but everybody knows who they are. And so we're actually going to use a commercial amount of PozGlass in the structural pour of the footings that sit inside the pilot plant, our legacy building that's been around since 1989, 734 Sarcey Street. It's got a 6-inch slab, and some of our pieces of equipment are much heavier. So we've got 3-foot slabs. So we'll be cutting the floor and putting in 3-foot structural slabs. All of those slabs will contain 20% PozGlass to replace Portland cement. We're very excited. The pour is tentatively scheduled for the 3rd week of November. Once this pour is done, actually just before it, we will dismantle this batch processing plant that can produce commercial amounts of PozGlass. It's sitting on the ground where the phase 1 or the milestone 1 plant will go, and we will dismantle it, and we will then accelerate the assembly of all of the components, with, of course, waiting for our last piece. Everything will be here in December, other than the optical sorter, which we're expecting in early January. Moving on, I get a lot of questions about growth. So Progressive Planet acquired Absorbent Products in February of 2022. And for the next 3 years, we focused on improving our margins, upgrades to the plant, and only in the last 9 months or so have we started to really focus on new business development, now that we feel comfortable with the state of our operations. And I actually went and I visited our biggest US customer along with one of our full-time account executives in Nashville in May of this year. And I presented a new brand for this customer, and they loved what they saw. And we introduced Pure DE to the national buyer for this large customer. And we pitched them to replace a competitor's product. And our competitor has a 20-pound white DE. So we already have 3 SKUs with this company, a 40-pound Red Lake Earth, a 4-pound Red Lake Earth, and Stall Dry, which is a bedding additive for horse stalls, and it's a market leader. We've seen exceptional growth in those SKUs, but this customer was seeking a new line. And they loved what we presented, and then about 2 months ago, they presented us with an opportunity to be the exclusive supplier of a new form of diatomaceous earth or white colored. And we had to pay a significant sum of money to earn this exclusivity and this product placement. It was a major investment, and we have received large amounts of purchase orders for this puffer bottle of Pure DE and the shaker jug and the 20-pound bag. So the investment we made to procure this long-term shelf space, we have already received orders in-house that are greater than the amount, but it was a significant amount of money. And we will see a margin impact as we allocate those fees. As we produce the first sales of these 3 SKUs of Pure DE, we will offset our sales with the amount that we paid to procure this long-term shelf space. So in conjunction with that, we're undergoing major plant upgrades for these new listings, and also to install our new robotic palletizer. We sent pictures this summer when it arrived. I believe it was July or August. And so we are shutting down our main line, and the other lines will have periodic shutdowns. So for the rest of Q2, we'll see some plant shutdowns and moving into the first 10 days of Q3. And so these managed line shutdowns are for us to enjoy significant growth through both these retail listings with our biggest US customer, as well as my next point, and that is we've also procured 4 new SKUs for growth for lightweight cat litter. So we have never made lightweight cat litter for ourselves, and we announced a royalty agreement with a very large international cat litter manufacturer, and we now have our first SKUs, and the first shipment of lightweight cat litter will go out as a private label to a very large Western Canadian retailer. I'm not allowed to say their name. They can announce if and when they want. We make the product for them as a private label. So the recipe enables Red Lake Earth diatomaceous earth to clump, creating a lightweight alternative to traditional cat clay litter. The 4 new SKUs are just a start. These are private label SKUs for a customer that we've had for decades. Everybody on this call, if they live in Western Canada, would know this company. Again, I'm not allowed to say their name. We're a B2B supplier, and if our customers don't want their names spoken, we respect that. But the 4 new SKUs are just a start. We intend to create our own brand of lightweight WonderCat Light, and we have very lofty expectations for both our gross margin and also the ability to put so much more product on a truck. With our traditional clumping cat litter that we make for Costco in BC, we can only fit 20 pallets on a truck before the truck tears out or it exceeds the weight it's allowed to operate on the road for a 53-foot van. With the new lightweight, we can put 26 pallets and we can stack the pallets higher. So substantially more units per truck, and each unit is worth more money. So we're very excited about our margins and how far we can travel. So when we make products with our diatomaceous earth versus the bentonite clay, it's half the weight. Bentonite clay, we have a hard time making money shipping it past Saskatchewan or shipping it past Oregon State if we were to go south. But with this lightweight litter, we have equivalent weight products with Red Lake Earth, with Stall Dry that we sell successfully with great margins in Florida, Southern California, Texas, Arizona. So this is a really big deal for us, how much further we can sell products, lightweight cat litter. So obviously the benefits, lower transportation costs, reduced fuel use, and alignment with company sustainability values. And we do anticipate over the next year to see an increase in our cat litter sales based on the fact that we now have a lightweight alternative available to the market. So we're starting to make some waves. There's Dr. Brown in the middle. He's much more photogenic than me, but we won an award, the Carbon Capture Canada Awards on September 24th. We were up against huge international companies. Petronas, one of the biggest oil companies in the world, BASF, the biggest chemical manufacturer over 100 years old out of Europe, and Savante, a French carbon capture company, much bigger than Progressive Planet, along with 3 other companies. We won the award for innovation in carbon capture utilization and storage for Carbon Capture Canada. It's fun to be recognized. These are moments of joy, and we really enjoyed that, receiving that. And this is a testament not to Steve Harpur and Doug Brown. It's a testament to the 60 people who all pulled together to produce these industrial minerals and generate the cash flow that allows us to allocate some of this free cash flow to developing new and innovative products, such as PozGlass, such as lightweight cat litter. So there, the picture on the left, by the way, that's our new robot that's going to be installed in the next 2 weeks. And well, I guess installation and commissioning is about 3 weeks in total. Investor highlights. We've got a very clean cap table. We don't have any warrants out. Just under 9 million in stock options. Just under 119 million shares fully diluted. Minimal value has been given. If you look at our book value per share, you go to CEDAR and look at our balance sheet, and then look where we're trading. Many of our peers, industrial mineral companies, with less of a portfolio of patent and patent pending products, trade at 4 times book. We're nothing close. And I don't know where our stock closed today because I started this webinar, so I'm not going to talk about, but I encourage the investors who are on this call, go look at our balance sheet in our last filing for Q1, look at our book value per share, look at where we're trading, and make your own decision. Our cash flow continues to fund new products, no dilution to fund. We've got a competent and aligned management team committed to building shareholder equity on the balance sheet. And our shares trade on 3 exchanges, the TSX Venture, the OTCQB, and in Europe on the Frankfurt. So that is my presentation. There's a shot of our plant, and I welcome any investor questions. Martin, so I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Steve. We've gotten several numerous questions from the audience so far, and what I'm trying to do is clump them by topic so we're not bouncing around too much. So let's start with the alkali silica reactivity. Uh, you're doing a 2-year test. Is this an industry standard test that is required by regulatory authorities, or just to provide more credentials with clients that, or potential clients, that this is a long-term solution?
So when you say regulatory, we have these various um, product attributes that if you want to comply. So in Canada, we have CSA, or Canadian Standards Association. In the US, it's ASTM, American Society of Tests and Metrics. And in Europe, we have ISO, or International Standards Organization. The standards for glass replacing Portland in uh, concrete mixes, there are no specifications regarding the alkali content, but there are overall available alkali standards, and there are preferences that industry has. It's very much an indicate. So the cause of alkali silica reactivity is a reactive aggregate. And depending on where you get your aggregate, Western Canada typically has much more reactive aggregates. So ASR, or concrete cancer, is far more prevalent in Western Canada than it is in Eastern Canada, based on the geology of rocks that are used for aggregates. But the actual standards for glass and concrete do not address ASR. And the standards are ASTM 1866 and 1866M. And then in Canada, it's CSA 3000. What we are doing is providing a level of comfort. So currently, today, and since November of 2020, ground glass pozzolan has been permitted to be used to substitute Portland cement in both Canada, US, and Europe. We're simply providing evidence of a better mousetrap. And the evidence of a better widget or mousetrap is the best considered evidence is a 2-year test. And the short-term prediction of a 2-year test is a 16-day test. So we are doing this so that by the time that we are producing PozGlass in our pilot plant, we are well on our way of showing long-term the long-term benefits of PozGlass versus traditional ground glass. But today, as we speak, there are buildings being built with ground glass pozzolan that is dry ground being utilized in it, and it has been a permitted use since November of 2020 in North America and Europe. We're simply demonstrating or providing evidence of a better product.
All right. Should we assume that or is the concrete industry very conservative to changes, or the construction industry, where they're slow to adopt new technologies or new additives in case there's something unforeseen 2 or 10 or 20 years down the line?
I would say the industry is conservative, but there are some overarching issues with supply and demand. And the biggest one is that the product that's been readily available for the last 80 years, which is fly ash, is no longer being made at nearly the rate it has been for the last 50 years. And that is because the burning or combustion of coal to produce electricity is rapidly being phased out in first world countries. So in Alberta, I believe it was 10 years ago, 80% of the electric power was from the combustion of coal, and today it's 0. So the only available fly ash is the material that's been buried. It has to be essentially mined again from fly ash landfills. They have to heat it. They have to ensure it's not contaminated because when it was buried, nobody buried fly ash to say we're going to use it 50 years later as a supplementary cementing material. In addition, the second most used material to replace Portland cement is steel slag. And steel slag was produced in great abundance when the only way that steel was made was through what we call a blast furnace, where you put amounts of limestone, coal, and iron ore, and you burn them together. And the iron ore, the limestone helps bind the impurities. It rises to the top of the molten steel, and then it's scraped off, and that is used as a supplementary cementing. Once they started using electric arc furnaces and now hydrogen, there's far less steel slag. So some of the largest cement companies in North America have been importing steel slag into the West Coast for 30 years. Just 10 years ago, you could get all the steel slag you wanted just from Japanese steel manufacturers. Today, you need 4 or 5 plants to get the volume of steel slag that you could get 10 years ago from one plant. So both fly ash and steel slag are dramatically decreasing in availability. Anybody wants to do their own search on ChatGPT about the ability to procure fly ash, especially on the east and west coast. It's a little more prevalent in the Midwest, where there's still some coal being burned. In Canada, there's one facility burning coal still in Saskatchewan, and there are several in Nova Scotia. But in Nova Scotia, they're not very close to where there's significant amounts of cement consumed. But so for these reasons, industry must find new supplies. And in my last presentation I did with you, I showed the growth of pozzolans as a cementing material. I don't have it on this slide. So the trend is our friend. The supply-demand disequilibrium caused by the shutdown of coal-fired power plants to make electricity, as well as the conversion of producing more steel with electric arc furnaces and with hydrogen, causes reduction in the supply of 2 of the main materials that would be competitive with PozGlass.
Are there any other benefits with PozGlass over dry ground glass beyond this the superior results in the alkaline tests?
Yes, it's stronger. So
Okay.
sodium that we remove, it is a very weak mineral. So sodium carbonate, which is 15% of the ingredient in glass. And the reason sodium's added to glass, added to beach sand or added to quartz, is that it reduces the melting temperature dramatically as a flux agent in the production of glass. And so when you remove the sodium from the surface of the particle of the PozGlass cement particle, that it is a stronger cement, and we've demonstrated that with a significant amount of testing. And then there's a third incremental benefit. When you release that sodium into the water, it becomes something called sodium hydroxide. And when you bubble CO2 into that, you make sodium carbonate again. And when you add a very common chemical produced as a byproduct, a waste product from the brine from oil sands, or the brine from oil extraction in Western Canada, we have something called calcium chloride, and we spray tens of millions of liters of this on dirt roads as a dust suppression. But when you add calcium chloride, a dissolved solid, to sodium carbonate, which we make from our wastewater, you instantly make something called precipitated calcium carbonate, or a form of limestone. So the benefits of PozGlass versus ground glass, dry ground glass pozzolan: number one, it's stronger. Number two, it mitigates the formation of ASR, or concrete cancer, better. And number three, it provides a free chemical to capture carbon dioxide or flue gas and turn it into limestone, a rock. So there's three benefits to it, which are incremental.
Let's move on to the pilot plant. Are there any consequences on being late with that portion of the phase one with anything delayed or penalties or anything like that?
We have not been made aware of any penalties. Um, the assumption I think people would make is that we may receive the payment for milestone 2 later. I have not been told anything by either level of government that these will be late. We have meetings coming up. We have these quarterly meetings. We have one coming up in about 3 weeks, and perhaps we'll hear then. But I have not had any indication from either the province of BC or NRC IRAP that these payments will be delayed. What I have been told by our account representatives that it is very common for people to experience small delays.
I would expect that, yeah.
Yeah, but and these are beyond our control for the most part. But the buck stops with me. I'm the CEO, and I'm a big boy. So if there are delays, I'll accept the blame for those. But at this point in time, we haven't been told that that there would be any delay of second milestone payments.
Is there a timeline or an expected timeline for when that second milestone payment would be made? Would that be on November 17th, a year later, or?
Yes, we were told a year ago that we would get that money in November for milestone 2. And the other thing is that we have made significant pros. Like when we laid out our milestones, we said we'll do milestone 1 in year 1 and milestone 2 in year 2. And what we've really done is a lot of the milestone 2 activity is already been completed. We expect to have, over 500 kilos of PozGlass added to the mix. And this is finished product. And, so finished product for milestone 2 of PozGlass is the key component of milestone 2. Yet we are going to have finished product almost a year earlier. So we don't know how that will be received as well. Again, we have meetings in about 3 weeks with our federal government funding representatives, and perhaps I can provide some updates after those meetings. But at this point in time, we have not been told of any delays. In the event that we did have a delay till we delivered the milestone 1 report, we have ample amounts of excess working capital in our bank. We've got large amounts of money in GICs, et cetera, but I have not been told anything to suggest that there will be late payment of grant monies.
Can you provide a very broad, loose outline of the expected milestones until commercialization of PozGlass in like year 2027, get this accomplished, 2028, this and that? Are you able to provide any very broad guidance?
I don't have the detailed milestone outlets for 3 and 4 in front of me, and it would require me to go into a document to read those. So
Okay.
I can't speak intelligently about the exact. What I can say is that we are expected to demonstrate that we can produce 4.3 tons of finished product in a 24-hour period with the pilot plant. And the front end will produce much more than that in a 24-hour period. But as I referenced earlier, the front end will produce not just PozGlass powder that then gets wet ground, but will also produce other products for us, including TanBlast, which we sell today and we've been selling for over 15 years. So the fact that the front end can produce much more than what we've committed to produce in PozGlass is a function of this plant being a multi-purpose plant. Not does it just make finished PozGlass for the cement, but it's also designed so that it can produce other products that we currently cell that are co-packed today and have been co-packed for over 15 years by another company in BC.
The amount of PozGlass that should be produced by the pilot plant, how material is that to the size of, let's say, the BC concrete industry or the cement industry? And can you give us some sense of scale?
To be clear, the PozGlass pilot plant is not meant to be a long-term profit center of the company. It is meant to demonstrate two things. One, that we can scale up and produce the same quality product that we've been able to produce in a lab. And we can do that with a given LCA or life cycle assessment number, so that in a product declaration, we can say that so many kilos of CO2 were generated to produce 1,000 kilos or 1 ton of PozGlass, and then compare that to the benchmark LCA number for the production of 1,000 kilos or 1 ton of Portland cement. We think our LCA number on our PozGlass plant is going to be about 1/3 of the number for production of Portland cement. And there's a fundamental reason for that. And that is, when you make Portland cement, you start with calcium carbonate. And when you heat it up, you lose 44% of the weight of that rock in the form of a phase change of a carbonate or a CO3 becoming CO2 or carbon dioxide. That does not happen with PozGlass. But the second reason that we are building this pilot plant is to demonstrate the economics on a scale up. How much will it cost us, and to provide an estimate of what it will cost to produce 1 ton of PozGlass on a full commercial scale. But the intent of this pilot plant is not to generate significant amounts of revenue or to compete. There are 2 companies that process glass in Western Canada right now. One is EnviroGrit Abrasives, and they operate in Quesnel, BC, and in the Abbotsford Mission area of the Lower Mainland. And they're a private company owned by the Zacharias brothers, Paul and David of Quesnel, BC. And they have had a monopoly essentially on the processing of post-consumer glass that does not have bottle deposits on it. That's glass that's handled through Recycle BC. And we were announced as a second approved vendor in March of 2023. And of course, that's how we are able to get supply for our pilot plant once it's operating. The second processor of glass in Western Canada is a publicly traded company called Vitreous Glass. Symbol is VCI. Very profitable. In my estimates, they process about 70,000 tons, and they operate out of Airdrie, Alberta. My estimate of the 2 companies is they process about 100,000 tons. We don't think there's room for a third glass processor without potentially working with one of these 2 in Western Canada. We do see large amounts of glass in Seattle, in Washington State, in Portland. We see huge amounts of glass in Toronto, the Tri-City area, around Montreal, and so on. So I don't ever want people to think that this pilot plant is meant to compete against EnviroGrit Abrasives or Vitreous Glass. It is meant to demonstrate scale up, demonstrate economics, and to create an LCA number, which a third-party engineering firm will be creating for us, and which we can use as a marketing benefit. Hey, this is the carbon footprint of this cement versus Portland. It's stronger than Portland. It mitigates ASR better, and it's got a fraction of the carbon footprint. But the pilot plant is not meant to be an economic engine for our company.
And the long-term plan for the PozGlass is to license that technology out on an asset-light basis. Am I correct in assuming that?
We envision PozGlass plants being bolted on as additions to cement kilns, not ready mix cement plants where you mix and deploy, but the plants where you produce. And there's several thousand of these around the world. We envision a licensing model where we receive a royalty for a bolt-on, and bear in mind that we're patent pending globally with favorable opinions on the novelty of our wet grind. The International Patent Office has provided a written opinion of favorability on the 46 claims that we make that are novel claims of wet grinding of glass. So if you are doing business in a country where trade law and patents are respected, we don't see a way that you can work around us once we finally move from provisional patent to full patents in all of the countries which we have applied, and that does include the Republic of China.
All right. And on to your new product listings. Are the listings with a new customer, or are they with an existing customer?
In both cases, for Pure DE and for the lightweight cat litter, they are with existing customers that we have done business with. We've got legacy business, millions of dollars collectively of these two customers for several decades. So they are new SKUs with long-term, stable, large customers, one in the US and one in Canada.
Can you provide any guidance on how much growth these new SKUs could provide?
I am not going to provide guidance. That's like you asking McDonald's, you've got a new flavor of a Big Mac and it's got dill pickle sauce. Tell me how much you're going to sell in 12 months. They can't tell you. We don't know what the adoption rate is going to be for the new brand, Pure DE. We don't know what the adoption rate is going to be for the lightweight cat litter that's in a retailer that has over 1,500 locations in Western Canada. But what we can make guesses, but they're just guesses, and I'm not in the business of putting out guesswork. It's just too forward-looking for us. We're excited that both Pure DE and lightweight cat litter will make meaningful difference in our revenues long-term. And of course, as you introduce new SKUs, people have to try them. Some people try them once and never try them again. A certain segment try them and then become repeat customers. Based on some of the homework we've done, some of the feedback, we think both will contribute significantly long-term, but I'm not going to start giving numbers.
You said that with the new DE product, it will reduce margins in your Q2 and Q3, being your October and January quarters. Will those have sort of your standard margins as well and be sort of margin neutral, so to speak, with your revenues going forward?
The margins on the products are very healthy. What we did was industry calls this placement fees or slotting fees. We paid a large fee to our largest US customer to replace a competitor and to not see their product on the shelves long term. So as the inventory of that product is consumed throughout the many locations throughout the States, it will be replaced by Pure DE. I can say that we've already received purchase orders greater. The value of the purchase orders we've received in the last 3 weeks is greater than the total amount of the slotting fee. But we expect that with the margins that we would employ in these products, that between Q2 and Q3, we will have paid off the slotting fee with the margins on this. So where our estimate is that our margins will be reduced in those quarters. We could have made an argument to deduct this over a decade or two as a long term, but we've decided to be more conservative. And when I signaled in the news release and in this presentation about reduced margins, it is accounting for the credits that we are issuing to this vendor to pay the significant slotting fee we paid to become the exclusive supplier of white diatomaceous earth under this new brand.
When is the lightweight catwit litter in the Western Canadian retailer expected to begin?
November.
All
So
right.
I also mentioned and put a fair bit of detail. Q2 and Q3 have multiple investment costs for us to gear up to grow the company. We're shutting down here, and we'll be shut down at the start of Q3, which is November. We've got 4 production lines. There's impacts on doing things better. First of all, our 2 main production lines. So over 80% of our production of the company at any given quarter relates to these 2 production lines. Those are both shut down or slowed down while we pull the 18-year-old robot out and put the new robot. Let me just see if I can find it over here. My thing won't let me. I don't know if we have no longer sharing screen. Okay.
There it is.
That robot there. Its older brother, that's now 18, has to be taken out, and this one has to be installed. That is a significant impact to your daily production. So the old robot could do 10 packages a minute on 1 pallet, 1 SKU. This one can do 17 a minute, 2 pallets, either 2 different bags or 2 different boxes. So this new robot will handle the production of our 2 main lines, and our second biggest production line, which produces Red Lake Earth, which is a valve pack, or it's filled into a cement type bag. All of the filling of that, the individual operator holds the bag over the valve, they fill it, it gets sealed, and then they place the bag on the pallet. Once this machine is in place, they will no longer place the bag on the pallet, the machine will. And then secondarily, we've ordered an automatic valve pack filler that we'll receive in 2026. And once we get the filler, then the operator will no longer hold the bag. They will simply just load bags and come back 45 minutes later and put another load of bags into the automated filler. So these investments are staged, but a major part of our upgrade is happening right now at the end of this quarter and into the beginning of Q3. I do expect on October 31st, we will have a much larger backlog, meaning purchase orders or legal agreements to make product, but it's not yet made and shipped, as we have this shutdown and as we are modifying our main 2 lines and then performing some other minor modifications to our other lines to prepare us to produce lightweight cat litter, to prepare us to produce the new Pure DE puffer bottles and the jugs, and then the bags of the Pure DE. They will be produced by our production partner and the company which has the supply rights to receive the product that also makes our White Lake Earth.
Steve, it is 2:00 now, and we've got to wrap this up. Any final comments before we call it a day?
No, I just want to thank everybody who trusts us with some of their hard-earned capital in their investment accounts, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. And people know how to get a hold of me if they want to have one-on-one questions.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you.